She stopped arguing with you, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you told yourself things were finally getting better. They weren't. The moment a woman stops fighting back is not the moment peace arrives. It is the moment she made a decision so quiet you didn't even hear it happen. And what she decided will change everything between you. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that cannot be undone once it is set in motion. You have been reading her silence as surrender. But silence in a woman who once fought to be heard is not surrender. It is something far more final than that. It is the sound of a door closing from the inside. And the reason most men never realize what it means until it is too late is because they were never taught to understand what a woman's silence actually carries. That is what this is about. Because what she is not saying right now is the most important thing she has ever communicated to you. There is a version of this story that men tell themselves, and it is almost always the same. She used to be emotional. She used to push back, get reactive, bring things up again and again. And then one day she just stopped. No more arguments at the end of the night. No more texts asking why you went quiet. No more tension that needed to be addressed. And the story most men build around that shift is one of relief. Finally, she calmed down. Finally, things feel easier. What they are actually feeling is the absence of effort, and they are mistaking absence for peace. She did not calm down. She disengaged. Those are two entirely different psychological realities, and confusing them is the single most costly mistake a man can make inside a relationship. When a woman is still fighting, still raising her voice, still sending the message at midnight, asking what is wrong with you, she is still emotionally invested. Her intensity, even when it feels overwhelming, is proof that she believes something between you is worth saving. Arguments are not always signs of a broken relationship. Sometimes they are the last honest expression of hope that something could still be repaired. She is fighting because she is still trying to reach you. She is still betting on the possibility that if she pushes hard enough, you will finally understand what she needs. The moment she stops doing that is not the moment she found peace. It is the moment she stopped betting on you. This is where it gets darker. What most people don't understand about emotional withdrawal is that it rarely happens overnight. It is not an impulsive decision. It is not an act of manipulation or punishment, though it is often received that way. It is the result of a very slow, very painful internal process. One where a woman has raised the same concern so many times that she finally runs out of ways to raise it. Psychologists describe this through the lens of emotional regulation, the point at which the nervous system stops tolerating repeated cycles of unresolved pain. There comes a threshold, and when that threshold is crossed, the emotional withdrawal is not chosen consciously. It happens because the cost of continuing to fight became higher than the cost of going quiet. She is not giving you the silent treatment. She is protecting herself. There is a profound difference between those two things, and understanding that difference is what this entire conversation is really about. Think about what it actually takes for a woman to stop fighting. Think about how many times she must have brought something up before deciding it was no longer worth bringing up. Think about how many nights she stayed awake rehearsing what she was going to say, finding the words, finding the courage, and then watch those words land without real impact. Now multiply that across months, sometimes years. By the time she goes quiet, she has already grieved the version of the relationship she wanted. She is not in the middle of deciding whether to leave. She has already left emotionally. What remains, the shared space, the routines, the surface-level normalcy, that is not the relationship. That is the aftermath of a relationship. She is still physically present, but the part of her that was willing to be vulnerable with you has already gone somewhere you cannot follow. And here is what nobody talks about. When women reach this emotional state, they often become remarkably calm. They stop reacting. They stop getting triggered. They respond to conflict with a kind of quiet neutrality that can feel, to the man still trying to read the room, like maturity, like healing, like she has finally found some stability. But that calm is not the calm of someone who has worked through her feelings. It is the calm of someone who has detached from the outcome. There is a version of peace that comes from resolution. And there is a version of peace that comes from no longer caring enough to feel the pain. What you are seeing when she suddenly stops fighting is almost always the second kind. So here is the question you actually need to sit with right now. When was the last time she truly pushed back? Not passive aggression, not distance, not quiet resentment, but genuine emotional engagement, real conflict, real investment in the outcome of an argument? Because if you cannot remember, you are already living in that aftermath. And the longer you stay there pretending the silence is a good sign, the further she drifts from the place where she could ever find her way back. And that is where the silent shift begins. What she is experiencing in this stage has a name in attachment psychology. It is called emotional detachment as a form of self-preservation, and it is one of the most misunderstood behavioral patterns in long-term relationships. When the avoidant nervous system has been repeatedly triggered without resolution, it does not keep escalating. It shuts the emotional channel down entirely. This is not coldness. It is not indifference by choice. It is the psyche doing exactly what it is designed to do, protecting the person from further emotional exposure in a situation that has proven to be unsafe. And the cruelest part of this dynamic is that it often looks like exactly what the man wanted. She is finally calm. She is finally not making everything a big deal. She is finally giving him the space he said he needed. What he does not realize is that the space she is giving him is not a gift. It is evidence that she has stopped needing him to understand. There is one more layer to this that most conversations about female silence never reach. When a woman disengages emotionally from a man she once cared deeply about, she does not always leave immediately. In fact, she often stays. She stays while building a parallel interior life that he has no access to. She stops sharing the small things, the odd thoughts she had in the afternoon, the song that made her feel something, the fear she almost said out loud. She stops offering those fragments of herself because the last time she offered them, they were not received with the care they deserved. And piece by piece, she reconstructs her emotional world around a center that no longer includes him, not out of cruelty, out of survival. By the time she walks out the door, if she walks out the door, she has been living as if she already left for a very long time. Here is what all of this leads to. The silence she is wearing right now is not a wall she built to punish you. It is a wall she built because she no longer trusts that letting you in will be worth the cost of the vulnerability. And walls built for that reason do not come down through logic, or effort alone, or even love. At least not love expressed in the ways that have already failed her. They come down only when she genuinely believes the dynamic has changed. Not because you said it changed, because she felt it change, consistently, over time, in the smallest possible moments. The question that lives underneath all of this, the one she is not asking you out loud, but that is present in everything she does and does not do, is whether you are capable of becoming someone who finally hears her before she has to raise her voice. Whether you can learn the language of what she does not say. That is the real weight of her silence. Not anger, not indifference, not even disappointment. It is a question she is no longer asking you with words. She is asking it through her absence. And the answer you give, not with promises, but with presence, with consistency, with the willingness to feel uncomfortable enough to finally pay attention, that answer will determine whether what remains between you is something that can still be rebuilt, or something that already ended while you were waiting for things to calm down. But what happens inside her when she watches you finally begin to understand, the moment she realizes you are actually seeing her now for the first time, that is a different kind of silence entirely. It carries something else, something rarer, and that story belongs somewhere else. Have you ever watched someone go quiet on you and felt, somewhere in your body, that something had already shifted before you could find the words to explain what you were feeling? Tell me what that moment was like for you. Drop it in the comments.